Hello Stampers, it's Debbie with Stamp It with Debbie, and today I have 3 fun cards using the Cute Fruit Stamp, which if you've looked in the annual catalog, you didn't just overlook it. It's not there. It's in a catalog called the Beginner Brochure. You can order it as usual through the online store, but you will not find it in the annual catalog. In case you're wondering, the item number is 153301. So I'm going to go ahead and show you today how to create 3 fun cards using this stamp set. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you for joining me today. And if you're new to my channel, be sure and click the subscribe button below and then hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of every video that I create. Also, if you'd like to follow me on Facebook, you can find me at facebook.com/stampitwithdebbie. All right, let's get started in creating these cards. So again, this is the stamp set, and if you'll notice, there are even some fun little happy faces that you can put on the fruit, or you can use them with other stamps if you want to. The cards we're going to be creating, I tried to create 3 kind of distinct styles. I did a 1-layer card, and then I'm going to step it up a little, and then I'm going to show you a fun technique. So these are the cards we're going to be creating. So let's get started. So for this card, the only thing you're going to need is a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I cut it at 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Now I did fold it in half. I used my bone folder to burnish that. I'm going to open it back up so I can stamp right along this edge. I'm going to be using Daffodil Delight ink, Granny Apple Green, and Memento Black. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my pineapple, and I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to start with my center, and that way the other 2, if I get this in the center, I know these are pretty close to being centered the other way. And again, this is just right on 1 layer. We're not doing anything fancy with layering it up. We're keeping it simple. Now I'm going to use my Granny Apple Green ink. And I'm going to stamp right on top of those. And I do like to clean off my stamps in between stamping. That way I don't accidentally set my card on top of it. And I also make it a practice to keep my ink pads closed if I'm not going to be using the ink. That way I don't accidentally, again, stamp something that I'm not supposed to be stamping. And so we're all done with this one except for our greeting up here. So now I'm going to take my Memento Black and stamp right up here. I couldn't ask for a sweeter friend. And then if we wanted to, we could stamp a little pineapple inside, but I'm going to keep this one simple and leave it just like this. All right, let me gather my supplies for the next project. So I'm going to set this one aside over here, and this is the next one we're going to be working on. And I'm just, again, going to grab my supplies real quick. And for this one, I need a piece of, I'm going to set that aside there, Granny Apple Green cardstock, a piece of, this is cut at 8.5 by 5.5, a piece of Whisper White cut at 4 by 5 1/4. I have a piece of the new In Color paper, 6 by 6 stack of paper, and that is cut at 1.5 by 5 1/4. I have the Stitch So Sweetly die. That's in the Magenta Madness, and then the next smaller one down in Whisper White. And then I did stamp 2 watermelons, and I did cut them out. This stamp set does not have a die that coordinates with it, but as you will see, it's real easy to cut these designs out. So I did go ahead and do that. So what we're going to do is go ahead and fold our card base in half. And I'm just going to use the bone folder to burnish that really well. Now I'm not going to adhere the other parts yet. I'm going to kind of set that aside. I need to do a little bit of stamping here. So I'm going to bring my scrap paper back. And I am going to need to grab my stamps really quickly here. There are two little circles here. I'm using the smallest circle, and I'm going to use Magenta Madness ink. And then I'm also going to use the stamp that says, "You're one in a melon." And that's all the stamps that we'll need for this one. So again, Magenta Madness ink. I'm going to center this up just a little bit. So what I like to do when I'm stamping, and I'll show you what I'm stamping here. I'm stamping these little dots. I kind of like to put my designer paper on there so that I can make sure that I get good coverage. So I'm going to set this here, and it's not quite centered. It's up just a little bit. I'm not going to glue it, but I want some of my circles kind of popping out from behind it. So see how that's popping out? And then I'll just randomly stamp on the rest of the card. And then again, I'm going to put this up here so I can kind of see where it's gonna pop out. And then before I clean off my ink, I'm just gonna look and see how does that look. And then I'm probably even going to put these on here and see, do I need anything else? I don't like this little bare corner down here, so I'm just gonna kind of stamp one kind of off the corner. And now I'm real happy with that, so that's where I'm gonna leave that one. Again, cleaning off my ink with that. I probably should have stamped my greeting first. It might overlap with one of the dots down there, but I think we'll be okay. So now I'm getting my Memento Black, and I'm going to stamp right here. And I think it's fine because it's in black, but if you don't want that circle to show up behind it, stamp your greeting first. That's actually what I did in this one that I created. I stamped the greeting first and stamped around it. Okay, so now we're done stamping because I told you that I already stamped the watermelon. I think I'm going to stamp one on a piece of paper just to show you how easy the process is. So I'm going to grab those real quickly here. And it is two parts for I'll set this aside. It's two parts for the watermelon. We're going to use Magenta Madness and Granny Apple Green. And I do the magenta first. And that's just going to be right down in the center. And then we'll ink up the Granny Apple Green. And I decided when I stamped this that I liked a little bit of white space around, in between the pink and the green. So I'm gonna line up the two edges of the watermelon and just stamp. And it gives you, it's not perfect, but no piece of watermelon is. And then when you cut it, you just simply cut around and leave a little white space around the edges. So pretty simple. If you wanted the seeds to be black, there is not a stamp in here that makes it black for the seeds, but you could easily color that in with a marker, a Stampin' Blends marker. And then let's go ahead and put our card together. So this card would be the first one would be for someone who wants a really simple layout. This one is a little more stepped up. It does have a couple layers. So I'm going to take this piece and adhere it to my card front. And then I'll put the designer series paper right on there. And again, I'm not gonna make it all the way in the center. I'm going to kind of put it up towards the top just a little bit. Now this piece of the Stitch So Sweetly dies, since we're not doing any stamping, can go right on top of this. And then these two pieces can be attached here. And now I'm just going to attach my watermelon. So the first piece, I did go ahead and just put that right down with adhesive. The second one, I'm going to pop up with dimensionals. I'll take the backing off of those, and I just wanted to kind of layer it off to the side. So there is card number 2. So again, card number 1 is a real simple 1-layer card. Card number 2, we've added a couple layers. Not too difficult. We did a little stamping in the back. So let me get the supplies for card number 3. Now this one is a little more stepped up even than the other one. And so I'm going to get my supplies for this real quick. And now for this one, I am going to be using, these are current in the Stampin' Up! Catalog. They're basic pattern decorative masks. And let me get them out real quick so I can show you. There are several of them in the package. There's 4. This one, let me move this aside so you can see it. This one is trees. This one's kind of a swirly pattern. This one's looks kind of like leaves or a floral pattern. And then this one is polka dots, and that's what we're going to be using today. Let me get my scrap paper back and get set up for this one. You will need sponge daubers or a sponge to do this process. And I'm just going to cut one little piece that I missed getting here, so I can tell you all the supplies that we need for this. All right, so what we need is a piece of cardstock. Again, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. This is Magenta Madness. I thought it lended itself well to the fruit. A piece of Whisper White, 4 by 5 1/4. I'm using the Stitched Shapes circle. And then we need a little banner that's a 1/2 inch by however long your greeting is. This is about, I'll probably use about 3 inches. It's a little bit longer. And now I did stamp the pineapple and I did cut that out, but I wanted to show you, and I'll go ahead and do this one real quickly. This is the topper for the pineapple. And it doesn't take a really long time. I'm just using my paper snips. I'm not cutting right up to the edge. I'm leaving a little white outline there. Trying to stay in camera. I keep forgetting and bringing it close to me. I'm sorry about that. And then we're almost done here. If there's any spots that you think show too much white, you can go back and trim that off a little bit. That part right there I thought needed a little bit. Okay, so there are the 2 pieces that I did do a little bit of fussy cutting to. So now we're ready to do some of our sponging. So we need the piece of Whisper White cardstock. We're gonna set that right down on our scrap piece of paper, and then we're going to put the stencil right on top. Now I'm going to use a little bit of, this is Post-it note tape. You could use washi tape or blue tape or whatever you want, and I'm just going to kind of hold my stencil down. You don't want to put it on the paper unless you're going to cut your piece of paper a little bit wider and longer. Otherwise the tape will be in the way of the sponges. Now the 3 colors I used for this are Mango Madness, Mango Melody, Magenta Madness, and Flirty Flamingo. And I started with the Mango Melody, and I'm actually using, you can use, again, a sponge dauber. You can use just a sponge. I'm using this little blending brush. You've probably seen them before. This is what I'm using. So I'm going to grab the Mango Melody, and I can see the outline. You probably can't see it real well, but I'm just going to kind of sponge right on here. I'm kind of almost doing it in an L shape, and I decided when I was doing my card that I liked it a little darker on these sides and a little lighter in the center. So that's what I'm going to do there. I'm done with the Mango Melody, and now I'm going to start with, or go on to the Flirty Flamingo. Again, if you haven't used the brushes, you just use the brush and wipe over your ink pad. And you might think that it uses a lot of your ink, but it actually doesn't. Okay, and now the last color I'm going to use is the Magenta Madness. And I'm going to do that on the top part of the card. And again, you can overlap some of it if you want to. You can make sure that you don't. You can make them really dark and kind of go into the light. And so you kind of want to follow the outline of your paper and make sure that you've gotten them all covered. So now all of the pools are covered by color. So I'm going to take my stencil off and pull my paper out. Isn't that so cute? All right, the only other thing that I need to stamp for this is my greeting. And again, I'm going to do the I Couldn't Ask for a Sweeter Friend. And I'm going to use the Memento Black ink for that. I'll ink that up. And I'm going to stamp right in the center of this because I am going to cut it at an angle. Whoops, my stamp is upside down. And then I like to just cut at a little bit of an angle here and then match it on the other side. And there's my stamped piece. So now we're ready to assemble. Again, we're going to take our card base, fold it in half, use our bone folder to get a nice crisp edge. We're going to use adhesive and adhere this right to the front of our card. And you can decide if you like the Mango Melody at the top or the bottom. I kind of liked mine at the bottom. And then I'm going to take my stitched shape, the circle here, and adhere that just with adhesive. Now my pineapple, I am going to put a couple dimensionals on the back. I like it to pop up a little. And I'm going to put that in the center. Now because my pineapple is popped up, I'm going to need to put dimensionals on the, I don't know if that's called a stem, I guess. And I'm going to just tuck that in behind and have that pop up. So for this piece here, we're not going to need just a regular adhesive here, but on this end, this left end, we are going to need a dimensional because the pineapple is popped up. So I did put a dimensional. So if I turn it over, that's the I Couldn't Ask For. The dimensional is going to be here. And then I'll just run a little line of adhesive on the other end. And that can go right in the center there. So that is our stepped up card. What do you think about that one? Let me know which one is your favorite and which one is more your style of stamping. If you like the basic, or if you like a little more stepped up, or if you like more of the wow card. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think. And again, come on over and find me on Facebook at facebook.com/stampitwithdebbie. If you need any supplies for this or any other stamping project, you can visit my online store at stampitwithdebbie.stampinup.net. And again, this is the Cute Fruit stamp set, item number 153301, that you will not find in the annual catalog, but it's definitely orderable. Thanks again so much for taking time to stop by, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and happy stamping to you all. See you again soon.